Welcome to Google Classroom for Management. Hi, everybody. I'm Meg Ormiston. I am a former classroom teacher. I taught second grade, third grade, fourth grade, sixth grade, math K-8, and technology K-8. And I am now here to present this lesson for you. I love Google Classroom, and I am going to tell you why. Google Classroom debuted about October 2014, maybe early November. A lot of people beta tested it. A lot of educators said, "This is what we want." Google listened, and they made Google Classroom. I wasn't sure at first. It wasn't quite robust enough for me, but now I am a raving fan. So Google Classroom. The people that are eligible to use Google Classroom are the schools that have Google Apps for Education. So if you're on your personal regular Gmail account, you are not eligible for Google Classroom. So your school or your district has to be a Google Apps for Education. So that is one thing that right out of the bat you need to know. So you have to log in. Let's say you do have that personal Gmail account as well as your school account. You have to be in your school account to access Google Classroom. The whole concept behind Google Classroom, I don't call Google Classroom a learning management system. I call it a document management system. And it's a document management system for everything to do with the Google environment. The great thing, you'll hear me rant and rave about how wonderful this is you can stay connected from any device at all that can connect to the internet. And so that is very exciting when we start to look at your crazy life as an educator. So this is an example of kind of the environment once we'll get in there. So Google Classroom, to access it, the first time, a lot of times you can access it just like you do your Drive through your apps. But I found sometimes, I don't know why, depending on what district I'm in, sometimes I have to actually go to Google and go to Google Classroom. And so you may have to Google that to go ahead and do it that way. Lots of resources online. This is going to be a tutorial to kind of walk you through it. Now, if you've done any of my other modules, this one is slightly different. This whole series is different. This is a little bit more of a tutorial, walking you through how to get started and things like that. So you'll see lots of help here. So this is one of my great schools I work with, and this one is an example of some of the classes we set up for professional development. And so this is what the interface, I love the interface. It's so clean and quick and easy to navigate. So imagine if I was a middle school, high school teacher, and I have however many classes, I just have what I call a container for each one of those classes, and everything tied to that class is in that container, if you want to think of it that way. And so to get started, very simple, classroom.google.com, and you're going to sign in with your school email. And then look for the little plus in the upper right-hand corner next to your name. And you create a class. Make a name for that class, but don't panic. We can always rename, delete the class. We can archive things. It's great. Now, once you make that class, so let's look in the upper left-hand corner, the Tech Team Activators at River Valley. That is the class that I made. So I wanted that group to be separate from the other groups. We have one that goes across the whole district, but we wanted one that was separate just for that group. And so that's what we have here. In the bottom, with the minute you make that class, Google has made, behind the scenes in your Drive, they have made a folder for you. And in that folder, every assignment is going to go in there. So the file management in Google Classroom is seamless, which is great. Before, you would assign something to 120 students and you have to manage 120 emails or 120 files. This really simplifies your world within Google. And so, of course, we like to be fancy, so you can see the little headers across the top. Google gives you a lot of different ones, and I believe you can also add your own, but I'm not positive on that one. The most important thing to remember about Google Classroom is these two things. There are announcements on the left and there are assignments. So let's take a look at announcements first. You start a class discussion or post a general message to the stream. Think of this as more like your Facebook page, more like your Facebook stream, that everybody can interact kind of with the information. So let's say you want to put up a current event. You could put up a current event and ask students to comment on it. They can comment back and forth and see what each other has commented. Okay, now contrast that to the assignments. If you create an assignment, that assignment is pushed out to every single student. The assignment goes between you and the student. It doesn't involve the class or anybody else. So once you add the assignment, you name it, you give it a description and a due date, and then you can assign it to the class. The great thing is, let's say you teach 3 sections that are similar. You can create one assignment and assign it to different classrooms. Understanding the difference between the announcement and the assignment, to me, took me a while because I forgot when I went to set it up, I'd be like, oh, I want student interaction. So whenever we want interaction, it's announcements. Between me and my student, it is an assignment. So create an announcement. Here it is. Do introductions. I want interactivity with students here, so that's why you would make it as an announcement. We want everybody to be able to participate versus the assignment that is just going to go out. So let's think about this. This is the greatest thing about Google Classroom. When you make that assignment, behind the scenes in Google, a folder has been made within that class waiting for your students to turn their work into that folder. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, it tells you exactly 39 are done and 34 more still have to do this assignment. So you get everything there. Then you go to open up that folder. There's those 39 all within one folder organized. That is such a difference to the way we had to manage files before. So that's where Classroom has really, really helped a lot of people. Now, there's some great things that you can do. You can go ahead and prep ahead of time and save your work. It all saves under your password. It saves everywhere. So let's say you want to line up an entire unit and you want to get all the assignments set up, but you don't want to reveal them to students. That's awesome. You don't have to. We can do that at another time. Now, this is new. People asked for that. Almost every forum you go to is we need multiple teachers. And there's so much that with co-teachers and special ed support and paras and cross-curricular teams, they finally added the ability to add multiple teachers. And I don't think there's a limit to how many you can have. So you could have, like, for example, you could have a whole department class, if you want to think of it that way, and or you could have a whole grade level or something like that. So you can now finally have multiple teachers, which is great. Okay, so now we have made our classroom, and I covered up the name of whatever I named it, and I picked out my pretty background, and now I'm ready to enroll students. Now there's a couple ways we can enroll students, and there's quick and easy way, and I'll share that because I'm all about the quick and easy. Now, this is your main page or your main stream. And then you can add, this is key. Make a little note about this one. I learned this kind of backwards. See where on the right where it says about. This is where you can add some class information like maybe your email contact information, or you can add like links that don't really change, kind of the essentials that you might have for that class. And you could put those in your about, and that way your students can always access those resources. I mean, you could always add resources in an announcement or in an assignment, but this is kind of like more like a stagnant place. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just these are the main resources that we're going to use. And then that is also where you would add your co-teacher. Now, each class generates a class code. So once you create the class, on the first day of class, your students just click on the plus sign and it says join a class. And the class code is up listed on the left. It generates that class code. You can then do things like lock the code. You can always get a new code, but this is the quickest, I think, the quickest, easiest way to get people into the class. So first thing I do is I make the class, and before I would work, in this case with the tech team, I would make a slide in my presentation. I'd copy that code, put it up nice and large, and invite people to come into the class. Do the exact same thing with students on the first day, and you don't ever have to do anything again. It's all taken care of for you in that. Your students will end up in the right class because of that code. Okay, don't mind all the boxes. Once you get this, it actually is really easy to go ahead and use. Now we have students in here because we've invited them in. So that you now can go ahead and add an assignment. First thing you do is add a title for your assignment. There's also a place to add a description, but if you don't need it, if it's something that your students will know based on your routines, it won't show up, so don't worry about it. Now, we can do all different things below there. First of all, the due date. You can go ahead and put the due date. Later on, you could always add time if you need to. But let's kind of go across the bottom, starting with the paperclip. Attach any type of file that you want to say. So let's say that you have something that you, of course, have the rights to use that's in a PDF format. You can go ahead and attach that. And you can also create an assignment in Google that goes right into the folder that matches that assignment. That's the cool part. Right in the assignment, you can insert YouTube videos. As far as I know in my research, it's only YouTube right now that you can insert directly. But for example, you wanted to show something from TeacherTube or SchoolTube, no problem. You would use the next one, which is add a hyperlink to a resource. In that case, what that means is instead of being kind of embedded right within your classroom, it's going to be a link out. No big deal. Students don't really realize that, so it's not a big deal. Now, I love this next one. I can select the students for the assignment. So let's say I want to differentiate instruction for a certain group. I can go ahead and do that. And then I can assign whatever I want to whichever group needs that assignment. This is what it looks like on the student side. What you can see with the student view when they turn in the assignment. They go ahead and get the assignment, they add the assignment, and then they mark the assignment done. Back on a few slides where I said so many were done and so many were not done, students can come in here and mark it as done. That doesn't mean that, oh no, a couple hours later, a couple days later, they realize they want to make changes before it's due. They can still come in here and make modifications and then resubmit it. So you can resubmit back and forth to students. So it's not that you have to do it once and too bad you can't have it. It's really a nice feature in that way. Now I'm back on the teacher view, the teacher overview. You can get a sense right there, kind of your week in review, how many are done, how many are not done. And then you can, as the teacher, you can add a comment to each individual if you chose to do that. Or you can also grade right within this environment. A lot of people are not using the grading feature at this point because they have to use a different grade book kind of thing. But some are using it, and I've heard a lot of people that really like the grading features within here. I personally love the whole organization system of everything. And so you get home, and let's look at that one. Submit the link to your final video. You don't have to go through your whole drive looking for those. There they are. They're right there for you. And so you can just go ahead and call that up and take a look at those. Now, on the far left, you can jump between your classes. So you don't have to keep going out of the Google environment and coming back in. All of your classes will be listed on the left. All the classes that you are an instructor or a co-teacher are always listed on the left, and that is how you navigate back and forth between everything. So Why do we care about Google Classroom? It's the organization piece. And if you're lucky enough that you never had to organize your documents before Google Classroom, you have no idea how exciting this really is. It really is um, revolutionary in the whole management of everything. Now, there's lots of help out there for Google Classroom. We have Google experts everywhere. We can go to YouTube and get help. But actually, I had to go in and kind of get some clarification on a couple of things. And I found the classroom help was really helpful. I got to exactly what I needed. So the link is also on your handout, but there's lots of help. Don't sit there and think you're the only one with the question, because there's a lot of help out there. Now, archive. The archive piece is really nice. You do an assignment and the students complete it, and you don't want to rebuild that next year. So what you do is you just archive it. And then next year, when you get to that point, you can take that assignment out, clear out all the student work. It's just a click of the button. And then you can kind of reorganize where it is, where do you want it? And so I just wanted to show you the plus sign, the create and join a class, very simple. And the one thing that I will tell you, I always have trouble with, I work with all different schools, so I have a lot of different Google logins. Plus, most of my personal work is done through my Gmail account. So if you go to do work in Google Classroom, you're like, I can't get in. Chances are you're probably logged in with your personal account. So that is kind of important for you to remember. Now, Google Classroom is nowhere near perfect, but it is so much better than when it was released. A couple things that I hope they change very soon is the ability to reorganize assignments. Right now, let's say you put an assignment in and you want to pull it out, you didn't get to it or something like that, the sequence of your assignments can be off. Once you understand that, it's okay, you can start to live with it. But it took me a while to kind of get used to that. Like, for example, I want to take a group through a series of activities. Well, I had to build them kind of from the bottom up. So it just is a kind of a sequencing thing. I think that'll change pretty soon. And I think we're going to see quite a few changes in Google Classroom in the next few months. So that's your overview on Google Classroom. I hope you enjoyed it. And dive in. Give it a try. It works really well if you make a class and one of your colleagues goes in as a student, so you can kind of see both sides of it. So it's a great way to learn together. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today.